Carl Jung discovered that you can perceive someone's true character by paying attention to just two specific things. Not their spoken words, not their past achievements, and not even their actions when they know people are watching. Jung found that two distinct psychological reveals expose who someone really is beneath their social mask. And most people give away these secrets without ever realizing it. Picture this exact moment. You're sitting across from someone you thought you knew well, a colleague, a friend, or maybe even your romantic partner. They seem genuinely sincere, trustworthy, and completely put together. But something feels slightly off. You can't quite put your finger on it, but your core instincts are telling you there is much more beneath the surface. Jung spent decades studying what he called the persona, the structural mask we all wear to hide our true selves from society. But he discovered that no matter how carefully someone constructs their public image, these two psychological tells always slip through. Once you know what to look for, you will never be fooled by a false persona again. These aren't complex psychological tests, they are simple observations that reveal deep truths about human nature. By the end of this journey, you will not only be able to read others like an open book, but you will understand your own mind in ways you never thought possible. But here is what makes Jung's discovery so deeply unsettling. These two reveals do not just expose other people's character, they force you to confront your own hidden nature. Jung famously wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." These two psychological windows will show you parts of yourself you have been actively avoiding. Most people go through life believing they can judge character through surface-level behaviors. They look for outward confidence, kindness, success, or charisma. But Jung understood that these traits are all part of what can be called the performance layer, the carefully constructed image we present to the world. The real person lives beneath this performance. Jung discovered that no matter how skilled someone becomes at managing their image, two specific psychological patterns will always reveal their authentic nature. These patterns operate entirely outside conscious control, which is precisely why they are so reliable. Jung wrote, "Thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge. But judgment based on surface appearances is almost always wrong. True character assessment requires looking deeper into the unconscious patterns that people cannot fake or manipulate." What Jung found was that character reveals itself not in what people choose to show you, but in what they simply cannot help but reveal. These two psychological signatures emerge whenever someone's guard is down, their mask slips, or they are under any kind of pressure. Jung's first character reveal is the process of shadow mapping. This means discovering someone's true nature by observing who they judge most harshly. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This unconscious direction shows up most clearly in our intense judgments of others. When someone criticizes another person with unusual, biting intensity, they are not just making an objective observation, they are actually projecting their own disowned traits onto that person. Jung discovered that what we hate most in others is often what we have buried deepest within ourselves. He called this projection, the unconscious process of seeing our own rejected qualities in other people. The stronger the emotional reaction, the closer you are getting to their shadow. Let me show you exactly how this works. Meet David, a successful architect who prides himself on his absolute integrity. At every office meeting, David complains about his colleague Marcus, calling him fake and manipulative. David's voice gets sharp when he talks about Marcus's charm with clients. His jaw tightens when Marcus gets praise. But here is what Jung would see. David's intense reaction to Marcus isn't really about Marcus at all. It is about a part of David that he has rejected. Deep down, David wishes he could be more naturally charming and more socially skilled. but he has buried this desire because he believes it would make him fake. Jung wrote, "We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses." David's condemnation of Marcus is actually self-oppression. He is rejecting a part of himself that could serve him incredibly well. This is why shadow mapping works so reliably. When someone judges others harshly, they are always telling you something about their own internal conflicts. The traits they criticize most are often the ones they have pushed deepest into their unconscious mind. If you have ever caught yourself judging someone and realized it revealed something about you, you have seen this exact dynamic. But shadow projection is not always negative. Jung discovered that we also project positive qualities we are afraid to claim. When someone consistently puts others on pedestals, calling them incredibly talented or confident, they are often projecting abilities they possess but do not acknowledge in themselves. The key is to watch for emotional intensity. When someone's reaction to another person is disproportionate, whether negative or positive, you are seeing their shadow in action. This reveals what they have rejected and what they secretly long to express. Jung's second character reveal is mask maintenance. This involves observing how someone behaves when their carefully constructed image is threatened. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But most people spend enormous amounts of energy maintaining who they think they should be. This maintenance requires constant effort. Jung discovered that when someone's persona is challenged, when their mask slips or their image is questioned, their authentic character emerges in that exact moment of vulnerability. Here is how to spot it. Watch what happens when someone faces unexpected criticism, when their competence is questioned, or when they are caught in an obvious mistake. Do they become defensive? Do they immediately attack back? Do they deflect blame? Or do they pause, reflect, and respond authentically? Let me illustrate this with Sarah's story. Sarah is a marketing director, known for her calm professionalism. She has built her career on being the unflappable one, the person who never loses her cool under pressure. During a high-stakes client meeting, the client criticized her team's strategy, directly questioning Sarah's judgment. In that moment, Sarah's persona cracked. Her voice became sharp, her posture rigid. She interrupted the client, deflected blame to her team, and made subtle digs at the client's previous decisions. The calm professional disappeared, revealing someone defensive, insecure, and willing to sacrifice her team to protect her image. Jung would say this moment revealed Sarah's authentic character more than years of professional interaction. Under pressure, when her carefully maintained image was threatened, her true patterns emerged. Jung wrote, "The foundation of all mental illness is the unwillingness to experience legitimate suffering." Sarah's unwillingness to experience the discomfort of being criticized forced her into defensive patterns that revealed her character. But here is where this gets powerful for character assessment. These persona breakdowns do not just happen during major crises. They occur in small moments throughout everyday interactions. Watch what happens when someone's phone dies and they cannot check social media. Notice them when they are kept waiting longer than expected. Watch them when someone does not laugh at their joke. Watch closely for micro-expressions, sudden tone changes, and body language shifts. These tiny moments when the mask slips reveal more about someone's character than hours of casual conversation. Jung understood that authentic character is not what someone chooses to show you when they are fully prepared. It is what emerges when they are completely unprepared, unguarded, or under pressure. The most integrated people, those Jung would call individuated, show consistency between their persona and their authentic responses. Their public image and private reactions align because they have done the heavy work of accepting themselves completely. Now that you understand Jung's two character reveals, let's explore why they work so reliably from a deeper psychological perspective. Jung spent his entire career studying what he called the architecture of the psyche, how the mind organizes itself to navigate reality while protecting the ego. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But before transformation can occur, we must understand the chemical composition of each personality, their authentic character beneath the social performance. The reason shadow projection reveals character so accurately is because our unconscious mind cannot distinguish between self and other when it comes to rejected material. When David criticizes Marcus for being fake, his unconscious is actually trying to process his own relationship with authenticity versus social performance. Jung discovered that the unconscious operates through projection mapping. It casts internal conflicts onto external people to make them visible and workable. The intensity of someone's judgment always corresponds to the intensity of their internal struggle with that particular trait. This is why people who are genuinely secure in an area rarely judge others harshly for weaknesses in that same area. Someone who is truly confident does not waste energy criticizing others' insecurities. Someone who is authentically successful does not feel threatened by another person's ambitions. When you observe intense judgment, you are looking directly at a map of that person's internal wounds and rejected desires. The second reveal, mask maintenance, works because the persona is an artificial construct that requires continuous psychic energy to sustain. Under pressure, the ego's energy is diverted to defense, leaving fewer resources to maintain the mask. This is why crises reveal character. The true self is not something we create. It is what remains when the structural mask can no longer be held up. By observing these two patterns, shadow mapping and mask maintenance, you bypass the performance layer entirely. You begin to see people not as they wish to be seen, but as they actually are. This is not about judgment, it is about clear sight. It is about understanding the hidden forces that drive human behavior. When you see through the mask, you can interact with others from a place of true clarity and compassion, rather than being caught up in their social performance. Ultimately, Jung's insights invite us to look inward. As we learn to read the psychological signatures of others, we inevitably begin to recognize them in ourselves. We see our own shadow projections and our own moments of mask maintenance. In doing so, we take the first step toward true integration and self-acceptance. We move past the superficial layers of performance and begin the genuine journey toward becoming who we truly are. Jung once wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself." When an individual consistently judges those around them, they are frequently revealing their own deep inner isolation and their profound disconnection from the rejected parts of their own psyche. The second major reveal, which involves a sudden persona breakdown, works effectively because maintaining a fabricated social image requires an enormous amount of ongoing psychological energy. Jung often referred to this continuous process as ego maintenance, and he deeply understood that this fragile system becomes highly unstable when subjected to severe stress. When someone's public persona is actively threatened, their most primitive defense mechanisms immediately activate. These automatic defenses reveal their core psychological patterns. Do they attack out of nowhere, indicating a layer of underlying aggression? Do they quietly withdraw, showing deeply ingrained avoidance patterns? Do they skillfully deflect, revealing hidden dishonest tendencies? Or do they constructively integrate, demonstrating true psychological maturity? Jung also wrote, "A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them." The specific way someone handles unexpected criticism or a direct challenge shows whether they have successfully integrated their difficult emotions or if they are still entirely controlled by them. Stress consistently reveals the underlying truth. These behavioral patterns are remarkably reliable because they operate far below conscious awareness. Anyone can control their spoken words, manage their superficial facial expressions, and carefully craft their responses when they are fully prepared. But when their deeper psychological defenses are triggered, their authentic patterns will inevitably emerge. Jung understood that proper character assessment is not about catching people in lies or exposing their hidden flaws. It is really about seeing the entire person, their daily struggles, their automatic defenses, their specific growth areas, and their authentic strengths. This profound understanding allows for a genuine human connection rather than a surface-level interaction. Beyond Jung's two primary reveals, there is a third distinct pattern that emerges when you combine them together, which can be called the integration test. This involves observing exactly how someone handles their own shadow material when it is directly reflected back to them. This is the ultimate tool for character assessment because it shows whether someone is genuinely capable of personal growth or if they remain trapped in unconscious patterns. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Here is how the integration test operates in real life. When you notice someone projecting their shadow onto others, you can gently reflect it back to them, not accusingly, but with genuine curiosity. You might say, "I noticed you seem really bothered by people who show off. Have you ever felt like you wanted to show off but held yourself back?" Watch what happens next. This single moment reveals more about their true character than months of casual observation, because it directly tests their relationship with their own unconscious material. Let me show you this dynamic in action through two completely different responses. Remember David, who constantly judges Marcus for being fake? When asked if he ever secretly wishes he could be more socially skilled, David might respond in one of two distinct ways. Response 1 is the defensive pattern. "Are you saying I'm fake like Marcus? That's ridiculous. I'm completely authentic, unlike him. I don't need to manipulate people just to get ahead." This specific response shows that David is deeply defended against his own shadow. His character remains rigid, and his overall growth potential is limited by his inability to acknowledge his own inner complexity. Response 2 is the integrative pattern. "Actually, yeah, sometimes I do wish I was better with people. I admire Marcus's social skills, even though his specific approach bothers me. Maybe I'm just jealous of something I wish I had." This response shows David can hold a paradox, being bothered by something while also recognizing his own personal relationship to it. Jung wrote, "The most intense conflicts, if overcome, leave behind a sense of security and calm that is not easily disturbed." People who can successfully integrate feedback about their shadow consistently show this quality. They become much stronger through self-awareness rather than weaker. The integration test reveals 3 distinct character types that Jung identified during his research. The unconscious type remains completely unaware of their own projections and becomes incredibly defensive when confronted with them. They lack basic self-reflection and are often deeply surprised by other people's negative reactions to them. The aware but defended type recognizes their projections intellectually, but simply cannot integrate them emotionally. They might easily say, "I know I judge people," but they cannot explore why or what it reveals about them. The integrated type can observe their projections with open curiosity, learn from them, and use them as valuable information about their own growth areas. Jung called these individuals conscious, not perfect, but awake to their psychological patterns. This specific integration capacity accurately predicts how someone will handle conflict, personal growth, criticism, and true intimacy in relationships. People who cannot integrate their shadow material will repeat the exact same destructive patterns indefinitely, continuously blaming external circumstances for their internal struggles. But those who can work with their projections consciously become what Jung called individuated, authentic, self-aware, and fully capable of genuine connection with others. Now that you understand Jung's character assessment framework, let's explore how to apply it in real-world situations. But first, a crucial warning must be issued. Jung wrote, "Where love reigns, there is no will to power, and where the will to power is paramount, love is lacking." Use these insights to understand and connect with people, not to manipulate or control them. Character assessment should always serve compassion, not domination. Here is how to apply shadow mapping in different personal contexts. In romantic relationships, listen carefully to how your partner talks about their exes, their co-workers, or people they generally dislike. Are they consistently bothered by selfish people? This might reveal their own internal struggle with healthy self-advocacy. Do they constantly criticize needy people? They might be denying their own deep need for connection. But use this information to understand and support them, not to attack them. If you notice your partner projecting, you might say, "It sounds like that person's neediness really bothers you. Do you ever feel like you can't express your own needs?" This creates a safe space for deeper intimacy. In professional settings, observe how colleagues handle direct feedback, criticism, or challenges to their ideas. Do they become defensive, deflect blame, or attack the messenger? Or do they pause, consider the input, and respond thoughtfully? This reveals their capacity for growth, collaboration, and leadership under pressure. Jung wrote, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases." Understanding someone's character patterns helps you communicate in ways that fit their unique psychological structure. For parenting, these insights are invaluable. When your teenager complains that their friends are fake or attention-seeking, help them explore what this reveals about their own struggles with authenticity and social belonging. This builds self-awareness instead of judgment. But remember, character assessment is always a two-way mirror. Jung wrote, "Everyone you meet knows something you don't know, but need to know. Learn from them." Every single judgment you make and every reaction you have to someone else's behavior reveals something about your own psychological patterns. Here is a practical exercise for the next week. Keep a shadow journal. When someone irritates you, write down exactly what bothers you about them. Then ask yourself, where might this specific trait exist in me? What am I actually afraid of about this quality? Don't judge yourself for what you find. Jung wrote, "The acceptance of oneself is the essence of the whole moral problem and the epitome of a whole outlook on life." Self-acceptance is not self-indulgence. It is the absolute foundation of psychological health. Also, practice the integration test on yourself. When someone gives you feedback that triggers immediate defensiveness, pause completely before responding. Ask yourself, what if there's truth in this? What might I learn about myself? Jung understood that character development is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming conscious. The goal is never to eliminate your shadow, but to work with it consciously, rather than being controlled by it unconsciously. Before we go deeper, we must address the shadow side of character assessment itself. Jung wrote, "The healthy man does not torture others. Generally, it is the tortured who turn into torturers." The ability to read character can become its own form of psychological torture if misused. I've seen people use Jung's insights to become what can be called shadow hunters. Individuals who use psychological knowledge to attack others' vulnerabilities rather than understand them. This represents a complete perversion of Jung's work. Jung warned about this danger, noting that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. Sometimes people become obsessed with analyzing others precisely to avoid looking at themselves. Here are the warning signs that you are misusing character assessment. You feel superior when you figure someone out. This superiority complex indicates you're using psychological insight to inflate your ego rather than build understanding. You use your observations to manipulate others. If you're leveraging someone's shadow patterns or persona weaknesses to control them, you've become what Jung would call psychologically poisonous. You become judgmental rather than curious. True character assessment should increase your compassion, not your criticism.